Are you sick and tired of fucking suffering? And I'm not just talking about major injuries or disabilities or extreme mental health disruptions. I'm also talking about the little shit, like when some shitty little thought surfaces in our mind and then we start ruminating on it and then obsessing until it triggers some shitty brain juice which feels like shit in your body, and then the next thing you know, you're all fucked up. Have you ever thought about what suffering is? The easy answer would be pain, but is that true? I have a friend who dudes used to come to her and would pay her to stomp their balls with her high heels. I'm not shitting you. Pain for one person is pleasure for another. So suffering is clearly not just pain. Let's just boil it down, shall we? Suffering is an aversion to what is. What's sought after by one person can be a hated thing by another. Understanding that suffering is an aversion to what is can give you a bit of control. Here's a tiny example. I get tattooed pretty frequently, and as soon as the needles start going in and out of my skin, I tense and clench my jaw because my body's sending fuck this shit signals to my wrinkly pink meat computer. The longer it goes on, the more I suffer until I remember that suffering is an aversion to what is, and I give into it. The second I loosen myself up and stop wishing it was over and just accept it for what it is, nerve signals going to my brain, the suffering and the pain become minimal, and I mean fucking instantly. So accepting what is in the moment helps reduce suffering. If I then weave a narrative about how the needles are no doubt hitting beneficial acupuncture points, which may or may not be bullshit, who knows? Or I think about how the pain is releasing endorphins and adrenaline, creating a natural high, which is for realsies, then the suffering is further reduced and I can sit there for hours being fucking punctured. Suffering is an aversion to what is. I'm not saying it's easy. It takes practice and will to overcome our biological and psychological protection systems, but getting tattoos is just small potatoes in comparison to the cornucopia of human afflictions. But the theory is sound, albeit not always easy and not always possible at first. It's because our minds are wired a certain way, and we weave narratives around our suffering about how we don't deserve it or do deserve it, or about fairness and about blame and all sorts of shit. And it's not that some of it's not valid, it's just that we hold on to our stories of suffering and we keep reading the same damn page in our book of woes over and fucking over again. Mind hacking your own ass during a tattoo has benefits for mitigating the suffering of minor pain, sure, but it can be extended to extreme pain as well. I was stuck deep in the woods for 7 days with a blown spinal disc, and I'll tell you what, if I could have put myself into a fucking coma rather than deal with the pain of trying to walk or shit standing up or even laying down, I would have. But when your disc bulges, the muscles around it seize up and pinch the nerves, and it is an ungodly white-hot hell. The only way to minimize it is to relax the muscles, and the only way to relax is to accept what is. Accepting it and dealing with one moment at a time kept me from spiraling into potential panic, and I learned a new level of extreme acceptance, which allowed me to blow the foam off the top of my suffering. I hope you never have a need to learn radical acceptance, but we all go through suffering, so the next time you are suffering, instead of hating it or lamenting it or getting pissed, use that shit to practice suffering mitigation by accepting what is. It's hard to remember to do it. When we hate something, we hold tightly onto the hating, but look at it as a practice, because if you can smooth out the really, really bad shit, the little shit we make a big deal about will be a piece of fucking cake. If you pay attention to yourself, to your thought patterns, to your moods, and the feelings in your body, then you can practice suffering mitigation for little shit too. Did your chest get tight and your stomach uneasy? Can you identify the thought that caused it? Is it just an anxious feeling and you don't know where it came from? Well, either way, how about just fucking let it be whatever it is? Instead of beating yourself up for having negative thoughts or being disappointed that your mood just went to shit or that you're anxious or depressed again, maybe try some radical acceptance for whatever it is, whenever it is. If you can just let it be, whatever it is, without pushing it away or pulling it in, knowing that everything in reality is subject to change, then your aversion to what is and subsequently your suffering will be minimized. This isn't theoretical or woo-woo. I'm telling you, this is the way to not have to suffer so damn much. And if you want to go next level, once you begin mastering suffering, then you can start just not minding what happens, whatever it is, which is an extraordinary sense of peace. It's not happiness, which comes and goes anyway. It's not suffering, because suffering can't exist without aversion. It's simply your baseline, the stillness and peace that comes with not minding what happens. And there are layers to this too. Not minding shit can become not minding. But don't think about not minding, because using your mind to not mind is a fucking oxymoron. That doesn't mean don't do shit or handle your business. It's quite the opposite. When you're not pushing and pulling at actions, then you can perform action at a level of efficiency, effectiveness, and creativity hitherto not possible because of the mind's proclivity to corral everything into one of three stalls. I like it, I hate it, or I don't give a shit about it, which is not necessarily the same as acceptance. This shit doesn't just happen, it takes practice, but goody for us, life provides said practice all the fucking time. Suffering comes unto us all, and it is an extreme opportunity to see our aversions lit the fuck up. It's a chance to practice radical acceptance, which can lead to not minding what happens within the strange swirl of circumstances that are constantly surrounding us in a state of flux. I mean, we all experience suffering, and resisting and wishing it wasn't so just makes it worse, so why not use your higher faculties to convert it to an opportunity to minimize suffering? Figure it the fuck out, and then you can help somebody else mitigate their suffering. There can be a gift hidden within practicing suffering mitigation. It's when there's a moment, maybe it's just a second, but there's a moment when suffering ceases and you just feel normal again, and that feeling is extraordinary compared to the state of suffering itself. If you can grasp the moment of normality and foster an intense gratitude, whether it's 1 second or a whole day, whatever, a gratitude for just feeling normal, then that grateful state can allow you to appreciate the extraordinary existence we all share, because it's normally a thing hidden in our paradigm of mundanity. Suffering can transmute our normal, unappreciative boredoms into a delightful gratitude about simply existing. And instead of chasing happiness and running from sadness, we can reveal our natural contentment with what is. I hope you don't mind me saying so, but it's up to you to do. Toodaloo.